Hello everyone, I'm Kavita, Talent Engagement and Development Officer of ISSS. It's our pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Mr. Syed Shajauddin Ahmed, Assistant Manager of Cybersecurity and Data Privacy. With over a decade of experience in cybersecurity, Syed has earned recognition as a leading expert in cloud security, third-party risk management, risk assessment, cybersecurity strategy, and data privacy. Throughout his illustrious career, Syed has held key leadership positions, including Head of Cybersecurity and Data Privacy and Cybersecurity Management. Today, we are fortunate to tap into his vast expertise in his webinar, Importance of Cybersecurity Third-Party Risk Management. Please join me in welcoming Syed to share his valuable insights with us. Mr. Syed,
Thank
the
you.
floor is yours. Let's get started with the webinar.
Sure. Thank you, Kavita. Thank you for the warm introduction and the welcome. Hi, everyone. So my name is Syed Ahmed, and I'm glad to be presenting a webinar on third-party risk management today. So without further ado, let's quickly dive and talk about the complete aspects of cybersecurity third-party risk management framework. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Do I have the option to share the screen, Kavita?
Yes, you do have some.
Just give me 1 second. All right. Let me know if you guys are able to see my screen.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Yes, we can see us.
All right. So in today's agenda, we'll be talking about a few things. So the most important thing is the introduction of the third-party risk management. What exactly is third-party risk management and how cybersecurity interconnects third-party risk management, and the importance and the criticality of third-party risk management. Why is it that we see a lot of importance being given to third-party risk management? And the life cycle of the third party, right from initiation to the offboarding of the vendors and the service providers. And we then jump on to the building blocks of how an organization should actually try to build up their third party risk management program. And then the challenges and the benefits of having a third party risk management within the organization. So I know this sounds a little funny, but I wanted to present this three-legged race in the introduction of the webinar. The reason being that this is very closely related to the third-party risks that we're talking about right now, because if you see the three people within the race are very synchronous to each other. They're very interconnected to each other. So even if one of them falls or trips, they lose the race. So this is how the analogy is being considered when it comes to the third party risk management. But before we even get into a third party risk management, I just wanted to highlight and present what exactly is a third party or a third party vendor. So when we talk about third party, it is basically any service provider, any vendor, or any external party from outside of your organization that gets into a contract or an agreement with the company, which provides any sorts of services. It could be a technical service, it could be a non-technical service. They're consultants who provide their consultancy services to the organization. So that in a nutshell is basically a third party. Now, the reason why we see, the drive of third party risk management framework or the third party risk management programs nowadays is if you look at the reports online, you would see that the Fortune 500 companies nowadays within the world have a very high reliance on the vendors. So if you can see in the slide, the 60% of the organizations are now working with more than 1,000 third parties. So given the reliance and the dependencies on these external vendors and these third party vendors, there is a broader supply chain to support services, which again come with a greater risk and a greater greater attack surface. So this basically creates a very vast threat landscape for the organization, because their risk is your risk. So this is how third party risk is considered to be a very critical factor for the organization dealing with the vendors. And if you see, there are different kinds of risks, or there are different kind of threats that come along with the third party. Most importantly, I'll just touch upon the cybersecurity risks that come from these third party vendors. So they have connectivity, and they have access to the organization's data, the information that is available within the organization. So this data basically is in the hands of the vendor, and is in the hands of the third party providers. So you have to ensure that these vendors they go through certain compliance regulations, certain mandatory cybersecurity requirements of your organization, to ensure that the risks that are coming from these organizations are minimized and kept at a very low minimum pace. This is why I just wanted to make sure and try to touch upon and highlight that this is a very appealing image, which talks about and gives a clear analogy of a third party risk management program. And then, as I was mentioning, this is the reason why the third party is becoming very prevalent and very important nowadays globally. That if you see, there are more than 70% of organizations that have high level of dependency on external entities. The organization nowadays is depending on third party vendor, and that third party vendor is again depending on another vendor, which makes it a fourth party, and that fourth party vendor is depending on another organization. So it's a very cyclic chain which is going around, and there is no end to it. That's why we have to make sure that these risks are addressed right from when you initiate a contract, right from when you basically onboard a vendor within the organization. Otherwise, you might definitely have heard of the recent CrowdStrike service failure, which caused a global massive outage for a lot of critical infrastructure, wherein there were around 8 to 9 million Windows devices globally which were affected, and they were put to what do you say, a very bad situation, wherein they weren't able to operate, and the businesses were completely stalled. And it was also reported that this third party failure led to at least a $10 billion loss of revenue globally. So this is the impact, and this is the severity that these third party risks are posing to an organization. That's why the organizations, the board, and the people responsible are actually focusing a lot. There is a lot of discussion within the board members. There is a lot of discussion on the higher ups and the management, to ensure that these risks are mitigated, that there is a visibility on these risks, and that the organization ensures that these risks are also identified and mitigated appropriately. Uh, I'll now try to jump into the life cycle of the a typical third party risk management. How the life cycle is developed within an organization for any third party onboarding and offboarding. So once you identify the vendor that is about to provide any service, it could be probably just an advisory role, or it could also be that they provide some technical service to the organization. So the first step is to identify the kind of service that this vendor provides to the organization. So you need to ensure that right from the onboarding. You assess the vendor, you do a due diligence as to what kind of service, what kind of access these vendors have to your infrastructure, to your information, to your data, so that you're able to further take steps, depending on the kind of access these vendors have to your organization, and the kind of access they have to the organization's data. And then you select or evaluate the vendor, basically based on the consideration of RFPs, which is your request for proposal, and then the vendor selection, which is based on the business needs. So once you identify the vendor, you try to evaluate and select what kind of vendor is this. And then what you do is you basically try to do an initial risk tiering, or a due diligence exercise, wherein you try to identify that is this a critical vendor, or is this not a critical vendor. So this is basically a very high risk tiering exercise that an organization needs to do and should do, to ensure that you identify right from the beginning stage, to ensure that if this is a critical vendor or if this is a non-critical vendor. So based on the criticality of the vendor, this will help you to make your future exercises very easier. Let's suppose there is a vendor which is deemed to be critical, then you put in those controls accordingly. If this is a critical vendor, then you need to make sure that this vendor is auditable. This vendor is actually following your organization policies, your cybersecurity compliance, and ensuring that these people are monitored, and ensuring that these people are also properly authenticated, so that the kind of data that your organization has shouldn't be sabotaged, or shouldn't be sold somewhere in the dark and the deep web market. And then the step goes on, the stage where the procurement team, which plays a very important role within this life cycle, needs to ensure that there should be some cybersecurity clauses within the contract and the agreement that needs to be done with the vendor, and they need to integrate and embed these clauses within the contract. And these clauses again should be a part of your vendor cybersecurity policy, or vendor or a procurement policy, where you actually mandate these clauses and make sure that the vendors are actually adhering to these clauses. And if the vendor fails to adhere to these clauses, then you have all the right, depending on the organization's risk appetite, to either leave the vendor, or depending on the organization's risk appetite, you want to go with this vendor. And then of course there is always a record keeping, and you can always have automated tools. You can check on various metrics, the risk levels, and a continuous monitoring which happens because of the automation tools nowadays. You can always keep an eye on, and have an ongoing monitoring of these vendors. And then finally, every vendor has to leave, and every vendor has an offboarding point of time at some time. So once the vendor decides to leave, or the contract is ending, we need to ensure that the access that is given to these vendors is completely revoked. These vendors are actually making sure that the data that they have access to, and that the data that they have taken from within the organization is completely sanitized, and they no longer have any access to any of your confidential information. So this is basically, in a nutshell, a complete life cycle stage for a third party risk management. And then I'll try to touch upon the building blocks of a TPRM program. So it is indeed very challenging sometimes. and because of the cross-functional support and the cross-functional collaboration which is required. And I myself have experienced this quite a few times, where I've noticed that the support needed from different departments within the organization needs to be leveraged, and there should be frequent discussions. There should be a proper governance structure. There should be a complete third party risk management committee. There should be a board committee as well, which talks about these things at a very strategic level. And then there should be a governance committee at a tactical level and an operational level. So this is how these lines of governance needs to be put in place to ensure that the TPRM is a part of all your organization governance structure. So when we talk about the business drivers, the regulatory compliance is something actually pushing or probably enforcing organizations to actually look at their third party risks, because a lot of frameworks have actually been developed globally now. Nest 853, or other frameworks within Nest, the ISO 27001, and there are other different frameworks that you can leverage to actually make sure that these frameworks are actually a part of your regulatory compliance. And then the global operations of your business needs to be aware that this is also something not affected, because your vendors sometimes could be very critical to your organization, and their criticality is your organization's and your business criticality. So if they do not have a proper resilience framework, if they are not making sure that they have a very robust disaster recovery plan, or if they do not have a very strong incident response plan, that this is something very critical to the organization, which is relying on the third party vendor. And then of course the foundations of the third party risk management program. So everything within the organization begins with the design and the building of the governance framework. So you start with a policy. You need to make sure that you have a third party risk management policy, or a supplier policy, or a third party cybersecurity policy, where you actually induce and you actually introduce all these clauses and all these controls within the policy, so that once a policy is approved by the higher ups, by the board, then this is mandated to everybody to be adhered, and this is how we can make sure that the third party program is properly implemented. And then of course, once this policy is implemented, is mandated, is disseminated across the organization, the proper team, the proper people have to be involved in this program, ensuring that there are specific skill set required for managing the third party risk management program. There has to be a proper team, or nowadays I've seen that large organizations, they have a very dedicated team just for the third party risk management, where their sole focus is just to manage the vendor onboarding, vendor offboarding, the vendor and the procurement process. This is what they do. So again, going back to the governance and program effectiveness, the one of the ways, or one of the effective ways of having any program within the organization, is to get the management buy-in. So you have to bring the higher ups and your executives, and bring and their confidence needs to be bought in, so that you're able to manage the program effectively within the organization. And then of course, eventually, if you are in a position to have a technology in place, then this is something that can help you a lot in terms of streamlining the processes, improving your automation, and making sure that there is not a lot of manual work to be done. So this was from the third party risk management building blocks. I will just get into the best practices of how you can incorporate within the organization of having a third party risk management guide. So as I've mentioned earlier, so you can have a standardized automated onboarding process where you can closely work with the procurement team or the vendor management team, which takes care of how smoothly or how quickly a vendor is onboarded within the organization. So this is how you go with the first step, and then the next step is inventorying all your third party, because you need to inventory and you need to have a catalog of all your third party inventories, because you will not be able to protect something if you do not have the visibility. So as they say in cybersecurity, you cannot protect anything unless you do not know what you're trying to protect. So this is a very crucial step where you actually try to have an inventory of your third party vendors, your third party assets. And then once you have the inventory, you need to create a profile of each vendor, where you try to ensure that the details of these vendors are actually specifically mentioned, the kind of services these vendors provide, where are they located, what kind of data access they have, when is your contract starting, when is your contract ending. So these critical parameters give you a very bird's eye view on what kind of vendor this is within the organization. And then, of course, once the vendor is onboarded, you do your risk and control assessment to identify and try to see if this vendor really requires some robust controls to be implemented within the organization. And of course, you always no matter how safe and secure the third party vendor is, or no matter how safe and secure and how stringent your controls are within the organization, you still have to have a remediation plan for anything. God forbid, and if something goes wrong, you always have to have your remediation plan as to how you quickly recover from this incident. That's where your incident response plans are activated. So you need to ensure that you always have a remediation plan in place. And then the further step is ensuring that you regularly review the contracts. You check the contracts and the agreements if the cybersecurity clauses are properly mentioned, and then the third party vendor is properly complying and adhering to these contract clauses. And the final and the last step is ensuring that the vendor monitoring is something which is going on, and this is not something just left at bay. Not having a visibility on these vendors will again bring you some other risks. So jumping on to the risk management strategies, the strategies, there are many different strategies within different frameworks, but I just wanted to highlight a few key strategies for mitigating your third party risk, ensuring that the contractual clauses are mentioned, because this is one way how you can actually safeguard your organization and the third party organization by implementing contractual safeguards, so that the organization is complying to these contractual obligations within the cybersecurity policies, and then ensuring that the organization itself has the robust cybersecurity policies that the third parties need to adhere to and to comply to, without which, again, you have the liberty not to continue with the service, depending on, again, the organization's business impact. And then, of course, the final step and the last step is to make sure that you always have an incident response plan to address any potential issues, God forbidden, caused by third party breaches, because their breach is your breach. We'll now talk about the challenges and benefits. Everything comes with a challenge, and of course, there are always benefits associated with the challenges. So the common challenges in managing third party risk, the third party incidents are, as I've mentioned earlier, they're disrupting the business at a very massive scale. The incident, as I mentioned about the CrowdStrike, or the incident which happened a few years back from solar winds, is it caused a huge outage for the different organizations, and they were heavily dependent on these third party vendors to provide some critical services. So you can imagine the kind of impact and the kind of financial loss that these vendors are bringing into the organization. So that's a very common challenge, and that's why the business needs to understand, and business should not underestimate that they do not need a third party risk management program, because they do not have enough budget around it. Of course, the technology is not yet fulfilling its promise, because this is again something very niche, and something very new, within the market. So there are not quite a few matured or robust tools within the market which manage end-to-end third-party risk management. And then, of course, there is a shortage of resources globally for third-party risk management, and most of the businesses are struggling to maintain a fit for purpose third party risk management operating model. And when I say fit for purpose third party risk management operating model, what I mean to say is that the risks are not common across all the organizations. Basically, when you talk about risk from one organization to the other organization, the risks vary, and the risks again depend on different aspects and different factors. So the kind of business and the nature of business that this organization has, the services it provides, the kind of industry that this organization is into. So it has its own a different risk landscape. So, and plus, because of all these challenges, the mandate is from the regulatory point of view, where the nations globally are coming out with third party risk management frameworks, mandating the organizations to implement these programs and these frameworks to ensure that there is not a huge loss for the organization, or at a national level. The benefits of the third party risk management, of course, the highest benefit is that you're complying with the regulatory compliance of that particular country. For example, within the Saudi, we've got the National Cybersecurity Authority framework, and then there is this Saudi Arabia Monitoring Agency, which is the central bank of Saudi Arabia. They have their own specific domain, which specifically talks about just the third party risk and cybersecurity third party risk, what needs to be done at what stage, and how these can be minimized and these can be lowered. So proactive risk management, of course. So you need to make sure that before a risk is entering into your organization, rather than being reactive, you have to be very proactive in identifying these risks, and kill them at the beginning itself. And of course, when it comes to the business value, the business interest and the business impact is very high, because you're trying to gain the trust and the interest of the shareholders. Because if you're trying to minimize the risk, the trust and the value of the organization is at a very higher level. Of course, when you try to reduce the risk, you're reducing the overall cost within the organization, and this is not something directly affecting your finances, but sometimes because you're trying to minimize the reputational loss of the organization, you are reducing the overall cost. And I just wanted to highlight the recent incident again, which happened from CrowdStrike. The CrowdStrike was about 80 billion or 90 billion dollar company before that service outage of CrowdStrike happened. And in one day, you can actually go and Google around, and you can check online that only in one day the company devalued to around 30 billion dollars. So that's the impact, and that's the level of reputational and financial losses that these risks bring to the organization. And of course, when you have all of these, your efficiency is improved. You're able to have your processes in place, and you're able to have a smooth journey within the organization. And finally, who's responsible, or who's winning the third party risk or cybersecurity race? It's a win-win situation for every stakeholder, right from the board to the operational level. But mostly, it has been seen that the people who are supposed to own the third party risk management is usually the CISOs or the cybersecurity department, and sometimes it's also the IT, and sometimes they even talk about having procurement. But I am of the opinion that it should be kept within the cybersecurity department, because they have a clear and a good visibility of the cybersecurity risks, and that they're able to embed the third party risk into their cybersecurity risk profile and risk registers as well. And of course, a strong collaboration across departments is essential, because each stakeholder or each business owner within the organization seeks a service, or seeks a vendor to have services provided to them. And then some of the frameworks I've mentioned, from NIST Cybersecurity Framework, ISO 27001, CIS controls, these all can be incorporated within the complete third party risk management framework, or third party risk management processes. And I think that's about it from my side. Thank you, everyone. Uh, and feel free to ask if you have any questions, please. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Said. This is Ganesh here from India. It was
Yes.
a pretty good presentation. I really enjoyed the entire presentation. I have just a couple of questions, but I'll just give one now.
Sure.
In your experience, there are large cloud security providers. I mean, cloud providers, if not security providers, cloud providers.
Yes.
When I'm actually moving from one cloud provider to another, I always have a challenge. I'm not sure whether you have had the challenge of getting the data. I'm not sure whether they are cleansing the data that has been put in the contract. But I
Yeah.
am being arm twisted rather than I can't get these things controlled from one
Yeah.
service cloud provider to another. How do you handle the situation, if at all you have come across this situation?
So, I mean, I haven't come across such a typical situation, but mostly what I have seen is, when you're trying to transition from one cloud provider to another cloud provider, it's very important to make sure that you do a comprehensive risk assessment. So basically, what you can do is you can actually do a thorough assessment of the new cloud provider, and making sure that they are adhering to these different regulatory requirements. And then also making sure, for example, we few years back we did a what do you say, a compromise assessment exercise from CrowdStrike for our organization. And before we could wrap up on the project, on this exercise, we ensured that they deleted our data, and we ensured that they do not have the data within their tenant or within their cloud platform. So this is something that we've been able to do. But I totally get your question, and I totally understand the issue at hand, that it's very difficult sometimes to actually be very, very transparent in these things.
Thanks, Mr. Syed. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions or?
Syed, I may have a few more, but
Yeah,
what I'll try and do is I'll grab your email from Ms.
sure,
Kavita, and if I need some expert advice from you on TRPM, I'll reach
sure,
out
sure.
for sure.
No problem, no problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Kavita, and thank you ISS for arranging this session. We'll hopefully touch again.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you
You
all
have a
for
good day.
joining us today for this insightful session on the importance of cybersecurity third-party risk management. We extend our special gratitude to Syed Sujaudin Ahmed for delivering valuable webinar with real-world expertise on effective implementation. Wishing you all a wonderful day and happy Pongal in advance.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone. Take care. Bye bye.